Let's go to Harry Kazianis, right, of the Center for National Interest, the senior director. Harry, we're waiting to hear from the president, of course, on what additional aid he might offer. But despite President Zelensky, using 9/11 and Pearl Harbor to say the time has come for significant help for Ukraine, and specifically a no-fly zone over Ukraine, that part he doesn't seem like he's going to get. If he does not, what do you think happens?
Well, Neil, I mean, the president would be 100% correct to not give a no-fly zone. I mean, that is the pathway to World War III. I don't think I need to go down there. But I do think that the best things that we can give the Ukrainians are military platforms that they already know how to use. I've heard talk about giving them MiG-29s. Well, unfortunately, Polish MiG-29s are very different than Ukrainian MiG-29s, and it would at least take them a few weeks to use them. There's been talk about S-300s from other countries. Again, S-300s from Bulgaria or Romania are not going to be the same as Ukrainian S-300s. Just because it shares the same name doesn't mean it does the same thing or works the same way. So I think the best things we can do are going to be boring and not very, a lot of people aren't going to like it, but more javelins, more NLAWs, more anti-tank weapons, sniper rifles, body armor, helmets, medical aid, food. Again, these are the most sexy things in the world, like aircrafts or MiG-29s, but these are the things that are proving the most effective. And think about this, Neil. We've given Ukrainians 22,000 anti-tank missiles. The Russian army only has 12,000 tanks. So we are flooding the zone with weapons, and we're doing the right thing there. But we have to keep that same pressure. I know people want to do more, but this is working.
Harry, on a parallel track are these peace talks, and while they certainly haven't been very promising or forthcoming, maybe I'm overinterpreting some of the chatter around these latest discussions. Had me wondering whether something could be changing. From the Russian foreign minister, we're hearing that he would, and by extension, I guess he's saying Vladimir Putin would be open to a neutral Ukraine with an army, with their own standing army, and that could be a compromise. He didn't call it a compromise, but that's how it's being interpreted. At the same time, President Zelensky, I think for the third time in the past week, has echoed his view that being a part of NATO isn't an end-all and be-all, and he reminded people that it wasn't Russia that was shooting that down, no pun intended. Long before the Ukraine war, it was fellow NATO members or potential fellow NATO members who weren't keen on it. So he seems to be throwing that out there as well. What do you make of these overtures? Am I over-analyzing them or what?
No, you're spot on, Neil. I mean, I think there's a couple things we can see right off the bat. I mean, we are getting close to something. First thing, Ukraine is never joining NATO. I don't think that was ever going to happen in the first place. I think it was a dream. Maybe it was 10, 20 years down the road, but that's never going to happen. Not with Russian soldiers occupying Ukrainian territory. That is a non-starter. I think what we're going to see here, Neil, is what I would call an imperfect peace. Maybe not a peace treaty, maybe almost like an armistice like you have in the Crimean Peninsula where both sides agree to deconflict. Russian forces are still on Ukrainian territory. We start flooding the zone to Ukraine with things like M1 Abrams tanks that are retired, A-10 Warthogs. We start really arming them up, kind of like we've done with Taiwan in a lot of ways. And, I don't think we're going to get to a point where both sides completely agree on like I said, a treaty to end this conflict. But I think they'll agree to stop and maybe stop where forces are now. Maybe the Russians pull back a little bit. But I think this is going to end up being a situation where Ukraine is essentially a broken country, sort of like Georgia, looking at what Russia's done in Crimea, essentially a country that's been sort of broken in two. And in some respects, the Russians have achieved their goal. Ukraine will never join NATO, and that's sad.
But if Zelensky remains in power and they have some autonomy, you're saying the bigger issue would be the proximity of Russian troops, whether inside the country or in those breakaway Russian-favored republics. The Russian troops are still alive and well in there, right?
Exactly. This is going to be an ulcer upon Europe. This is the real challenge. I mean, I wish we had a way we could just push the Russians out, get the status quo back, rebuild Ukraine. That is going to be impossible at this point. And the Russians want to use this as a pressure cooker. And that's really where the danger is and why these tensions to be honest with you, Neil, may never go away.
Yeah, they never do is right. Harry, thank you very much. I appreciate that. All right, at the corner.